the sound good for you guys? Good? Okay.
You guys ready to get started? I appreciate all y'all being here. So my name's Clay Bright. I'm Commissioner of Transportation for the state of Tennessee, and really appreciate y'all being here to get y'all up to date on where we are with the I-40 Hernando de Soto bridge that's in the background behind us. With me today is Paul Deggs, Chief Engineer for the state of Tennessee Transportation. Jason Baker is our Region 4 West Tennessee Director of Operations, and then to my far left is Ted Knazwitz. He is our Director of Structures. So anyway, and we've got the group behind us from Michael Baker International that's here with us also. So this bridge, it was built in 1960. We got two spans over there. Each span is 900 feet long, so basically we got 1,800 feet of spans right there. And the particular point that's of interest to all of us is to the right, directly to the right, the lower beam, right directly to the right of the midspan over there. So with all that said, so this bridge is a joint ownership between us and Arkansas. In that relationship, that agreement with Arkansas, they're responsible for all the inspections done on that bridge. There's a program called the National Bridge Inspection Program, NBIP, and we're required by the federal government to inspect all bridges every 2 years. So there's 19,000 plus bridges across the state of Tennessee. We inspect those bridges every 23 months. So Arkansas was inspecting that bridge yesterday. Fred, and this was their first day to start that inspection on the bridge, Fred with Michael Baker was out there. He saw the fracture and immediately called 911 and shut that thing down. For us, safety is number one with our roads and bridges out there. So as we're working with Arkansas, they're responsible for the inspections, as I said. TDOT, state of Tennessee, is in charge of all the maintenance and repairs that will come from what we have found over there, and then the costs are split between the two states. So right now we've engaged Michael Baker International to help us with a repair, one mainly to analyze the current bridge structure where we are now. Is it safe for inspectors to get out on that bridge, and is it going to be safe for construction activities to repair the bridge? Also, we're questioning, can we open barge traffic underneath the bridge? Is it safe enough to open up for barge traffic? Because right now we got obviously the roadway shut down, but we also have the barge traffic on the river shut down. So we also, in conjunction and in collaboration, working hand in hand with Arkansas, and I've been on the phone with the Secretary of Transportation for them, Lori Tudor, yesterday and today, ever since we found out about the issue. And they've engaged a firm, HNTB, that's going to be helping with forensics on the bridge, and also working in conjunction and collaboration with all of us, Arkansas, Tennessee, and Michael Baker, on coming up with what this fix is going to be. We've also had conversations with our legislative, our congressmen and our senators in this area, just to apprise them of the situation, what's going on. I've spoken with the mayors here in Memphis, Harris and Strickland, to let them know what's going on. We've also had conversation, and we have full backing and support and cooperation from our Federal Highway Administration and US DOT. They have given us emergency management authority to move forward with an emergency contract once we have the fix in place, to get a contractor on board to get this thing fixed as soon as possible. As I said, first priority, safety is number one for us, but we absolutely want to get the bridge open as soon as possible, but we are not going to shoot from the hip here. We want to have the best fix long term to get this bridge back open. We also have had conversation with the state of Mississippi, obviously the state of Arkansas, and also the state of Missouri as far as traffic control. JB and his group, Jason Baker and his group, are working on traffic control throughout throughout the county and the city, so if you have any questions there, you can ask him. We've been in conversation with our Federal Motor Carrier Association to let them know so they can let the freight industry know what's going on here on the I-40 bridge. Also, with Jason Baker's help, on each side of 55, we're going to locate the help truck operators on each side to be there 24 hours a day. So if there's any incident with all the traffic going up and down I-55 crossing the river now, if anything happens there, we want to get that incident cleared out as soon as possible so we can let traffic continue to operate on that particular bridge until we get the I-40 bridge back open. I think that's all the points I wanted to make. Paul, do you have any comments you'd like to share?
Sure. So I imagine one of the things that a lot of people are asking is, well, what does it take to get the bridge back open to traffic? As far as the river traffic is certainly one of the things we want to look at. If you think about how the bridge is, certainly a bridge needs to be able to withstand its own weight. Of course, it's doing that right now. But when you put traffic on it, about 50,000 cars a day, about 25% of those being trucks going across that bridge, introduces a lot more loading on the bridge. Under the, as the joint owner of the bridge and under the National Bridge Inspection Program, our responsibility is to be able to have a known condition. So we need to be able to know the load carrying capacity of the bridge. So with one of the members being compromised right now, we're having to recalculate, redo the engineering to look at the bridge and say, well, what is the structural capacity of the bridge to stand under its own weight and also to carry traffic. And so that, of course, this happened yesterday afternoon. So those calculations are underway right now. As soon as we get that information, the first thing we want to do is, if the first calculation is, well, how can the bridge withstand standing by itself? We'll get the answer to that. We'll be able to answer the question, can we reopen barge traffic on the bridge? From there, we'll have to do a little bit more analysis to look at, well, what about traffic loading? Can we reopen it, all 3 lanes of traffic in each direction, maybe 2 lanes of traffic in each direction? That's the type of analytical work that we have to get done. From our standpoint, we can't let the public get on this bridge until we understand exactly how much it can carry. So for all of the bridges in the state of Tennessee and across the country, traffic can't be on these bridges unless we know for sure what they can carry. So a lot of times you'll notice that we have weight postings on bridges. Those are because we've done an analysis that looks at those loadings. The current legal loading for roads in Tennessee is 80,000 pound truck. And so, the average automobile weighs a little over 2,000 pounds, but we have to do the analysis looking at a much heavier vehicle. And then this bridge is about 25% trucks, but to make sure we have a good factor of safety, we've got to make sure that the bridge can handle a much higher volume of trucks if necessary. So that's kind of where we're at today. We're hoping to be able to, in relatively short order, to be able to get an answer on, do we think we can open the river back up to traffic? It'll probably take a few days longer to be able to get an answer on what can we do from a vehicular loading on the bridge.
Sir, is there maybe you just kind of answered a little bit of it, is there a ballpark when you believe traffic, at least in some form, can go? Are we talking a week, 2 weeks, the idea?
And to be honest, right now we just don't know. We're hoping to be able in the next day or so to be able to have an idea of answering the question about barge traffic. For vehicular traffic, I just don't know. It's a much more involved analysis for the live load, the vehicles traveling across the bridge, as opposed to the bridge sitting with no traffic on it.
Is there any idea yet how long the fracture may have been there before it was discovered?
As the commissioner mentioned, we inspect bridges on a 24-month cycle. And so, in theory, the crack could have occurred, 5 minutes after the last inspection team walked away from the bridge. It's unlikely, but we have noticed that there is some rust on the where the fracture is in the steel, and so it's probably been a week at least, but we really don't know offhand.
this bridge has been retrofitted for earthquakes.
That's correct.
For handling earthquakes. Is there any thought that some of that retrofit may have affected the track in any way?
So we've contemplated that question. So we've spent over the last 12, 15 years about $280 million on seismic retrofit work on this bridge. Mainly that was to look at the piers and how the steel components sit on top of those piers. Our initial assessment is we don't think that there was any linkage between the seismic retrofit and this work. Where the fracture in the steel occurred is out away from one of these joints. It looks like it might be a fatigue-induced type failure. If you'll recall, as the Commissioner said, this bridge was built in the late 60s, so it's about a 50-year-old structure. And you know, and when you have a lot of movement on a bridge, sometimes you get fatigue issues on them. And this is certainly a very unique bridge. It's unique in the world, and so it's just not something that we can look around and say, hey, this is a place that you need to look. So that's what the 24-month inspection cycle is so critical for.
So, I'm sorry, follow up. So, in terms of the month, is it like 24 months to the day that is expected, or?
So in law, it's written in law because they don't want you to wait. They don't want you to do. They want you to meet the window, so they have a window of between 23 and 24 months. So you basically have about a 30-day window in there, and so that, and again, the inspection is a little bit more than just the field work. After we do the field work on the inspection, we have to come back in and do some analytical work to get back and look and say, are there posting requirements? For this bridge, it's a pretty robust structure, a lot of, but it's big. And so we just, have to try to hit that 23 to 24 month window. They will ding you, if you will, the program managers in Washington, if you go beyond the 24 months. In Tennessee, we take pride in meeting the 24-month window, but if you go too early and try to get ahead, it messes up the cycle. So it's really, really trying to focus in on that 23 to 24 month time frame.
You mentioned the uniqueness of this bridge as a structure. Is there any sort of precedent you guys have found, whether it's in this region or around the country, that you can look to as sort of blueprint for making repairs?
Yes. In fact, the consultant, Michael Baker, that's working on this structure, has had experience on a bridge, as my understanding, in Pennsylvania. And so this type of bridge is unique, but fractures in steel components of bridge are not unique. We've seen, I know we had a bridge in Knoxville in 1989 that we had about a 6-foot tall beam that had a similar type fracture. It was different, much different type of construction, but similar in that it was a steel fracture. And so we do come across steel fractures from time to time.
In 2017, an inspection report gave it a fair rating.
Mm-hmm.
It was estimated that repairs would cost $200 million. Were the repairs made?
So we've spent about $280 million. As far as the details of the repairs, our bridge inspection program identifies a lot of different areas. I don't know offhand of the specific repairs. Certainly this location was not identified in the bridge, but there is ongoing work that we do on bridges of this nature. It gets painted every so often. We've done a lot of the seismic retrofit, and a lot of the motorists in the area will notice the expansion joints, the metal headers as you cross different parts of the bridge. We've done a lot of repair activities on those. They are a high wear item. Bridge deck issues are a high wear and tear item. That's where the rubber meets the road, literally. And so the expansion joints are a pretty routine type project we do to do repair on those. I would have to look at the details of the 2017 or inspection report. I just don't recall offhand. Sure.
Second question. That means, as you know, this is a bridge that gets a lot of traffic from
Sure.
all over the country as things pass through. That means there's going to be double the traffic on the older bridge. Can that bridge handle that?
Yes, it can. So again, we talked about the bridge inspection. The other bridge, the I-55 bridge, was the inspection was completed on it earlier this year. So it's or maybe late last year, but it's been within a year. So it can handle the traffic, but certainly, we're trying to put double the amount of volume through the same size pipe. And so is going to be congestion more so on the I-55 bridge than it was previously handling.
Kind of piggybacking off of that, this might be more of a question for RDOT, but on that side of Arkansas, there's a lot of construction going on in the West Memphis area. Have there been conversations to perhaps delay that construction so as to alleviate the congestion we're seeing in that part of I-55?
So we have, literally just got off the phone with the director of the Arkansas Department of Transportation. So we've been having conversations as far as the decisions they make on which projects to proceed with or to slow down. That'll be something Arkansas would have to answer.
Do you think, just again theorizing here, we had about 3 weeks of icy and snowy weather here in this area. Is that part of the consideration as well as to how this is going to happen?
That would be speculation, but if you think about our bridges, and this is a relatively modern bridge built in the 1960s, that the temperature variations that we have, I just don't think would have had a huge impact. Certainly expansion and contraction due to temperature swings, it expands and contracts steel, but I am doubtful that is a culprit, if you will, in the fracture.
So again, just an initial interpretation, you believe it was just overall cars going over every day, fatigue.
This is a steel box beam that is if you can imagine, it's about a 2 foot by 3 foot metal box made out of 4 plates of steel. And the thickness of the steel varies from being thicker at the bridge pier to being thinner out in the middle of the span. And some of the experience that our industry has seen in this type of construction is that box was welded from the inside, and welding is they do X-rays on them, but maybe there was something to do with some of the weld, coupled with the loading and unloading of the traffic going across the bridge could put a fatigue failure in it. But again, right now we don't know, and so that's why I think it's wise and we've kind of got a two-pronged approach here. One being Tennessee taking the lead on the repair activities, but then Arkansas with a different engineering firm taking the lead kind of on a forensic evaluation. Because what we want to be able to do is we want to learn from this. Certainly looking at the bridge, it's a big bridge, and we want to make sure that we don't see this type of fracture again.
Is there an estimate about the amount of freight that travels under the bridge and how that's impacted?
That information is available. I actually had tried to pull it up this morning. I just wasn't able to get to it, but there is a large amount of volume. I know as we've looked at the bridges over the river, that's one of the things that the Coast Guard tracks. From an economic development standpoint, understanding the freight flow on the river is important to us as a transportation agency. I know that information's out there. I just don't have it available to me.
Memphis Mayor Jim Strickland told our station earlier this morning that he thought repairs to the bridge could last closer to months rather than weeks. Is it possible that the bridge could be shut down for that entire time for months? And then is it also possible that traffic could return while those repairs are being made?
And right now, we don't know the answer to those questions. Certainly it's plausible that this could be months rather than weeks. We are hopeful that we can find a solution that would allow us to proceed with some opening of traffic, but right now we just don't know. Until we have that analysis complete, we won't be able to answer that question.
There's an infrastructure plan right now being discussed in Washington. When you see, this issue, how important is it to kind of improve infrastructure in general in Tennessee, and B, is this bridge or the I-55 bridge, do you think, would it be part of the plan at all? Have you heard anything about that?
So I certainly you know, infrastructure across the state of Tennessee and Arkansas and across the country is important. It is kind of the backbone of the economy, particularly for our two states. Of course, this bridge, this isn't a maintenance issue. I mean, it's an older bridge, and we'll have to do repairs. It's just kind of like your car. Sometimes you have to, you know, do repair if the alternator goes out on it. You have to fix that. So I think that it does point to the importance of infrastructure and why the people in Congress are talking about infrastructure. In Tennessee, we are a pay-as-you-go state, and we pay for bridges and our pavements and keep them. We pay for that first, and then we add additional capacity second. So to that extent, most of the issues we're faced with in Tennessee are looking for dollars to pay for expanded capacity through, you know, new highway construction. And the maintenance type work we're going to cover first. So this bridge will get fixed. It won't wait for money. So we'll move forward. Us in the state of Arkansas will make sure that the dollars are available as the plans are available.
Can you spell your last name, please?
Yes, D-E-G-G-E-S. It's Paul Deggs.
Do you know how long the full inspection will take that Mr. Baker is going to do that?
So typically, for this type of bridge, it's a pretty big bridge. They have to do repelling and, you know, and get equipment to reach up under it, and plus get to the very top of it. So this is probably, what, a 30-day inspection? Is that ballpark for you guys?
No, this is the 3 to 4 day inspection.
Oh.
Our large team, of course, established on day one, so
Yeah.
all the rest of the stuff is set aside.
So the physical work is 3 to 4 days. They'll come back in and get back into the office and write everything up. So it's shorter than I thought it was.
So it's,
Well, now, it is broken in 2 different sections. Another section,
Yeah.
rope access portion,
Yeah.
the very upper part of it, rope access on down.
So it'll take a couple of weeks before we get a finished report out of the,
but that's part of it. That was the first day, really,
yeah.
first part of the day when they saw the fracture. So as soon as we know the bridge is safe to get back on, they're going to continue the operation of inspecting the rest of the bridge as soon as possible. Still going forward with the repairs that need to be made.
I mean,
The
it's
engineering
closed to our
part of that.
inspectors and all right now as well.
So does that mean it could take 2 weeks before you can give the okay for barges to go underneath again?
I don't know the answer to that question right now. I'm hoping that our analysis will be able to be faster than that. Certainly the interstate commerce on the river is important, and so we're going as fast as we can, but I just don't know the time frame.
Have barges had to just hang out and down the river just to stand by?
Well, we flew in this morning and flew over the bridge and looked up and down the river, and you could see barges parked up and down the river.
And we're having conversation with the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard wants to know what's going on, what our plans are. So we're staying in communication with the Coast Guard so they can start advising the bridge companies and when they can start moving up and down the river. So they're very interested in where we are with the decision-making process.
So I'm assuming there's no other aquatic route that commercial traffic could take, correct? I don't see another river this size, but just checking.
No.
Just to clarify, the bridge was last evaluated 24 months ago. It was considered fair condition?
Yes.
What's the rate? Bad, fair?
It's you know, good, fair, poor, and so in Tennessee we have a very, very high percentage of good bridges and fair bridges. Our poor bridges are less than or in the 3% range.
Have there been any long-term discussions, sir, of at some point redoing the bridge entirely? Has that been in play the next 5 years? Right?
So keep in mind, a structure like this is $1.5 billion if it's a nickel. So it's very expensive infrastructure. So the city of Memphis, regional communities in the area have been very interested in a third river bridge. So there's a lot of information. TDOT's done studies, but frankly, $1.5 billion is just big money, and you know, our annual construction programs may be about $1.1 billion a year. So that would, you know, a project like this is just very difficult. And then again, it's a split between us and Arkansas, and you know, Arkansas is not quite as big a program as we have.
Yeah, I know you briefly described where on the bridge this crack is, and specifically what it is that it's cracked. How big is the crack? And I don't know if you're
So this is it's a box. Again, as I explained earlier, it's a box beam. It's about 2 feet, a little under 2 feet wide, about 32 inches tall, and it's a fracture. So of those 4 plates of steel, three of the plates have just separated, and the bottom piece of it, the 4th piece, has a crack about 20% of the width of the steel.
when you say separated, how big is the separation?
A fraction of an inch, but it's not
clear
connected.
fracture.
It's not connected. So, and some of the welds on so it's fractured and came apart, and then the welds that weld some of the box components together on one side has kind of peeled back a little bit.
Is that something that's measured for a fraction of an inch, bridge this size?
It's very visible, but remember, for any type of beam, a steel beam in particular, if it's a 1/10 of 1 millimeter, if it's not connected, it doesn't carry load. Steel, this piece of steel is in tension, it's pulling, and so if it's not connected, you know, on a concrete beam that's in compression, if it's pushing together, it'll have some capacity. But when you pull something apart and it's not connected, whether it's a millimeter or, you know, a meter, it's not connected. So from an inspection standpoint, this was, I would say a rookie would have caught this one, but our inspectors, and in this particular case, this being such a unique structure, the state of Arkansas hired a consulting firm. This is what they do every day of the week. They go around, not just in Arkansas, but probably in other places doing bridge inspections. In Tennessee, we have 17 bridge inspection teams that inspect the roughly 20,000 bridges in Tennessee. When you inspect a bridge, you get to know a bridge. It's kind of like one of your children. You know where the cowlicks are and where the bruises are and stuff like that. And so and I think that's one of the strengths of the program, is these crews that inspect these bridges have been looking at them, and they know when something looks different than it did the last time they were out here.
But when he saw it yesterday, there wasn't any doubt.
Yeah.
What could the eventual effects be if this had not been caught during an inspection? How does the machinations of the bridge work where this would continue to separate it and crack? What happens to the bridge? Is part of it fall off? Does it collapse?
Well,
Does it separate?
So I mean, certainly, and of course, you know, we don't have any contemporary history of bridge failures in Tennessee on the state highway network. I know the last 2 bridges I'm aware of in Tennessee that collapsed were cause of flooding. If you'll recall, in 1989, the Hatchie River Bridge fell due to the river moving over time and taking a pier out. There was a bridge in Middle Tennessee on a local road that a bunch of debris piled up against one of the piers during a flood and took a pier out. So those things happen. As far as this type of failure, I just don't have any experience. I've been with the department since the mid-'80s, and I've not seen a failure. Now, look, we've seen cracked steel before, but I've never seen a failure. And so, you know, but I mean, ultimately, if enough components of a bridge are compromised, then the bridge won't stand.
Do you anticipate more traffic across the river, both at the
correct. So we've reached out to the Federal Motor Safety Carrier Administration through the Federal Highway Administration, through the Tennessee Trucking Association, and trying to get information out to system users across the region to let them know that we have an issue that's going to be causing congestion in the Memphis area. We've also staged equipment on the Arkansas side of the river, some of our incident management, our help trucks. Because there's no shoulders on the I-55 bridge, if there's a crash and somebody gets, broke down on the bridge, we can bring equipment in, down the traffic lane to pull the stranded vehicles out. So to that extent, we're trying to reach out to everybody we can to make sure they know what's going on, to put the information out to the public to let them know.
Were there photos taken, and if so, are they available to us?
I suspect through Nicole Lawrence, our public information community relations officer here in West Tennessee, we can make some of that stuff available to you.
The 2019 inspection report, you weren't able to find it anywhere online. You referenced it. I assume you've seen it because you said. Where can we find it?
As the commissioner mentioned earlier, so we have an agreement with the state of Arkansas. Arkansas is responsible for the bridge inspection and that part of the program. So if you'll reach out to Arkansas DOT, they should be, we don't keep that information, so the actual inspection report resides in Arkansas. That's just part of, we have a similar agreement with Missouri on I-155.
Sure, we reached out to them and they said they don't have it.
Okay, well, I don't know.
Which is why I'm asking you.
Okay.
So I'll go back to them and see.
Okay. Well, I mean, the information does get reported on the federal level, so we'll see. I just don't know what's. I would think that they would have the one from 2 years ago.
Any other questions?
Yes, on the inspector report of 2017, I just wanted to verify that the report said it would cost $200 million to fix.
So in the inspection report, there are a wide variety of items identified, some of them minor, certainly if there's any major things, and they come up with a cost estimate. So some of the issues could be, crash damage on a bridge rail somewhere, up to some of the larger items. I just don't know the details of what the 2017 report says, but based on just broad, big picture, so when we get the inspection program drives repair projects, rehabilitation projects, and replacement projects. So when we get the inspection reports on these bridges, we have to make an assessment of certainly if there are critical issues. In fact, in this case, the bridge inspection team said, look, this is bad, we got to close the bridge right now. Most of the time, there are very few critical issues on a bridge, but the inspection teams note damage, crash damage on bridge. Maybe if you got clogged up deck drains on a bridge, there's a lot of debris gets on the road, cleaning out deck drains. The inspection teams don't clean the bridge, their role is to inspect. So there's a lot of different things that go into the inspections. Again, some of it is repair work. The bridge owner gets this information. We also inspect local bridges, like city and county-owned bridges. We inspect those. But we'll send this bridge evaluation report out to staff, and they'll go through and, the low-hanging fruit that they can go take care of, they fix. But some of the stuff, it takes a repair contract. It gets loaded into our repair program. If on most bridges, the largest problem we have is on the concrete on the bridge deck. It's not a structural issue, but it's a customer service issue for sure. And so replacing, doing a rehabilitation job is important. And then ultimately, if a bridge is at the end of its useful life, the inspection program drives replacement projects. If you'll recall, in 2017, we passed a piece of legislation called the Improve Act that had 526 locally owned bridges and about 175 TDOT owned bridges in the legislation that were replacements because those bridges were at the end of their useful life. I'm the chief engineer.
Okay, thank you.
Well, and I do want to reiterate to you, based on that comment, I mean, as Paul said earlier, the first dollars we spend are towards maintenance of our roads and bridges out there. So that is the first money we spend. So that's most important for us, is the safety of the roads and the bridges, and making sure they are where they need to be. So the process worked with the inspections we did, or the inspection that was done by the state of Arkansas. Their consultant took the immediate reaction as far as closing the roads and bridges, and now we're coming up with a solution to repair it and get it back open. So, thank y'all for your time. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you, guys. Y'all have to follow up.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate
Everybody
it.
have
Sure.
A lot of questions being answered. Thank you.
And you're Jason Baker?
Yes.
What's your title?
I'm the Region 4 Director.
Card.
Thanks, Paul. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Sometimes easy.
I see you got an AEP. Said, are you with Commercial Appeal or?
Oh, no, I'm the